Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another Women of Horror Spotlight. Today I have with us, she's an author, and she has a new book right now through Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, wherever you can get your books. And it's called Cemetery Spot. I have with us Jenna Moquin. Jenna, welcome to the Horror Room. Look at that beautiful cover.
Thank you for having me. I know it's a gorgeous cover, isn't it? A friend of mine did it.
It's beautiful. Love it.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Cemetery Spot.
So The Cemetery Spot is a story about two sisters, and one night, one sister walks in on her sister having just stabbed her abusive husband in the back. And due to her husband having some ties with the police force, she doesn't want to report it. She's afraid they'll send her to jail, even if she can claim it's self-defense. So she convinces her sister to help her bury the body in the middle of the woods. But someone saw them.
So, now what gave you the inspiration for this story?
Actually, there was a fantastic book that came out a couple of years ago called My Sister the Serial Killer that kind of inspired me to write this one. And it's a fantastic book if you haven't read it. The author, it's an African author, and I am totally going to butcher her name, but it's called My Sister the Serial Killer, and I totally recommend it. It was really good, and it kind of inspired me to write this. I had an idea sort of buzzing around in my head about two sisters in a Thelma Louise type story on the run from the law, and it kind of morphed into The Cemetery Spot.
Now, Jenna, how come in real life, how come we don't have more women serial killers? Or are y'all so good at it that we don't know about?
That could be it. That's funny. I know, it's an interesting point. I actually I read this great article about Eileen Wuornos, who they made that movie Monster about, and she's probably the most famous female serial killer. And the article I read touched on an interesting point that male serial killers, they have some sort of reason for where every victim is someone that hurt them earlier in life, whether it's like a mother who rejected them or a girlfriend or whatnot. Where female serial killers, it's about revenge. Like whenever a woman is a serial killer, there's some sort of revenge aspect. Sometimes they do it to like someone who hurt them, or they want to like with Eileen Wuornos. I mean, she just lost it from the life that she had led, and I think she just kind of reached her boiling point and just started seeing every man she saw as like someone who she wanted to kill. So that is an interesting question. I don't know if women just by nature aren't always as violent as men tend to be. I mean, of course, there are abusive relationships where the woman is the abuser, but the abuse isn't usually violent. It's usually a form of psychological abuse or mental abuse or emotional abuse. So it's just a different aspect of it.
Yeah, because I mean, women go through a lot. I'm not a woman, but I have women in my life, and I hear the horror stories. Just coming to age and growing up. It's scary being a fucking woman. I mean, I can only imagine. I don't envy being a woman. I mean, it's tough. I respect it, and
it is.
I'm just shocked that women are able to hold their shit together and they don't snap like men do.
It's true. I think we're taught it at a very young age. I think just having your first period is something that'll teach you how to keep the anger down.
See, I mean, we have it easy. We don't have periods. We're not worried about getting pregnant. We don't have the whole, the whole society standards about gotta be married by a certain age and.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
So, what got you into horror writing?
Oh, I've been a horror fan since I was a kid. I think growing up, I always loved the Final Girls because they kicked ass. There weren't a lot of strong female role models when I was growing up. I had Princess Leia, I had Wonder Woman, and I had Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street. So I always loved that. And the Final Girls were always the ones defeating the monster and surviving at the end. And I always found that kind of inspiring. And I think that's why I was always drawn to it.
Now, when it comes to your writing, do you have habits? I mean, do you have an ending in mind, or do you work your way to an ending? Or...
I'm definitely a pantser. Definitely flying by the seat of my pants half the time. I did write one book where I had the ending in mind before I started, and I kind of found it tough to get there. I actually kind of like having just one idea and just going with it. Stephen King's got a fantastic quote in one of his interviews where he talks about that, and he says, "If I don't know how my story's going to end, then neither will my reader." And I kind of like that, where I'm not even 100% sure where this is going to go yet, and I think that can make it even scarier.
That is interesting, because I've talked to a lot of authors, and some say they already have an ending in mind, they work their way through it, but most are pantsers, like you said. The saying is they let their characters tell them where the story is going to end, and that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Now, being a woman horror writer right now, there's a boom right now in the horror, indie horror writing authors. There's a lot of women going into the industry. That is amazing. And why do you think so many women are now flocking into becoming horror writers?
I think it's starting to become more accepted. I mean, honestly, I have a lot of women friends who are huge horror fans. And they love true crime podcasts. They love horror movies. Like, women, I think, have always loved horror. I think there's been this, like, stigma that, girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. And they just, like rom-coms and chick lit. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
I know more women who are into true crime podcasts than men.
That's true. Like, a lot of women are into... Now, listen, when it comes to horror, there's subgenres of horror. Now, I'm not saying women are into slashers. Some are. A lot of women are. But, like, women are into, like you said, the true crime. They're into more of a psychological horror.
I think it's because it's so relatable. One of my friends who's a big true crime lover said one of the reasons she listens to it is because she identifies so much with the victims. That could be you. You could be this person getting hunted and chased, and you could be another statistic. And I think that's one of the reasons why women are drawn to it. The same reason why I was identified with the final girls and that strong woman character of the final girl. I think a lot of women, they put themselves in these situations, and sometimes watching scary movies or listening to true crime podcasts, you get ideas on how to defend yourself if you're ever in that situation.
Yeah. Now, are you shocked that when it comes to the horror industry that there's not that as many women horror villains?
I think we do need more women horror villains. I am a big proponent of that. I love a female villain.
Yeah, because I mean, even like the latest Hellraiser reboot or remake, like they had a female Pinhead, but I'm like, a lot of these horror movies, because I'm just thinking as a guy, how easy would it be for a woman to murder me? It would be pretty fucking easy. You know what I mean? It would be pretty fucking easy to do. And most men, because most men, we let our guards down when it comes to women. We don't see women as a threat. And maybe we should. I don't know. Listen, but like, it's the element of surprise is something that most women would have.
That's a really good point. I've made this comment before, too, about how it amazes me how many men abuse the wife that is the one who prepares their meals.
Exactly.
I think you're right. I think some women do a lot of quiet damage.
Yes. Or, like, go to sleep after they just got done physically or verbally abusing their wife. Like, you just go to sleep like it's no big deal. And listen, we need some more women villains. But even like I say this all the time. Like, how easy would it be for a woman to get a guy online or at a bar to just follow her into the woods? You know what I mean? How easy would that be? I mean, it would be, a woman would not just follow a guy. Well, it looks like we're going to a abandoned warehouse. I'm not going there. You know what I mean? A man would follow.
Yeah, maybe. You're giving a lot of potential serial killers ideas.
No, ladies, please don't become serial killers. Okay, all right. Now, so listen, growing up, what was the first horror movie that you saw that really scared the shit out of you or really got you into horror?
It would have to be the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember seeing like previews for it and being like so scared. And I'm like, you know what? I think I have to see this movie so I can see how scary it actually is. And I think I'm like, I'm going to face my fear. And that's exactly what Nancy does at the end of the movie. And so that movie it solidified it for me. I was a fan. I was a Freddy Krueger fan. I watched all the sequels after that. I started watching other slashers. I love the Halloween franchise. I wasn't a huge fan of the Friday the 13th ones. I just felt like they didn't have as much heart to them as the other
I'm the same way.
franchises. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yep.
I fell in love with Freddy because, I mean, like any kid growing up in the 80s, like Freddy Krueger was huge. Like he was like part of pop culture. And I remember having Freddy Lunchbox and all that growing up. And like, it was just, he had a cartoon, he had a video game. Like Freddy Krueger was huge in the 80s and early 90s. And like most horror fans, like definitely was, my fave and definitely gave me the pleasure of loving horror movies.
Yeah. And he made them fun. Like that's what made the Nightmare on Elm Street movies so great is you're laughing and screaming at almost the same time.
Exactly. He had a personality which a lot of horror villains do not have. He had a personality. And I mean, some of the jokes were crude. I mean, they were crude before you killed somebody, but like he had a personality. It may not have been a great personality, but he had a personality, and I like a good personality.
He did. Yeah, he was great. Did you ever end up seeing Freddy vs. Jason? That was actually pretty good.
I did. I saw that in the theaters. I was so excited to see it, and I know it's cheesy as can be, but like it was huge. If you're 80s horror fan and you get to see these two icons battling out in a movie together, it was like a once in a lifetime type thing.
Yeah, that was a fun movie. They had a lot of fun with it.
And sadly, I don't think we'll ever see something like that again because, the whole Friday the 13th series is tied up right now with legal stuff, and so is Nightmare on Elm Street. So I don't think we will ever see that.
I know.
Probably in our lifetime. All right. So, Jenna, as you know, this is a horror channel. And every once in a while I do this. I'm going to ask you 3 random horror questions. This is your personal opinion, okay?
Okay.
All right. The first one. What was one horror movie that you paid money, you went to the theaters and you saw, and then as you were leaving the theater, you were like, crap, I just wasted $14. This was...
I'm having a really hard time thinking of one. I honestly can't think of one. I think I've always had fun when I go to see a horror movie. Although, you know what? I wouldn't say I wasted it, but one of the Alien installments, Prometheus, I was like, I didn't think that was all there. Yeah, that's the one.
And I love the Alien series, but yeah, every time I see one of them in the theater, especially the Alien vs. Predator one, I saw the first one in the theater, so I was like, this is not Freddy vs. Jason at all.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's don't waste your time. But
okay, thank you.
Second question: so there's been a ton of horror reboots of classics. What is your favorite reboot?
I'm gonna say, well, not the new thing, but the 1980s thing, because that was technically a reboot.
Mm-hmm. And that is, a lot of people say Halloween is John Carpenter's best horror movie.
I hated that.
Oh. Sounds like a tractor trailer is about to come into your house.
Oh, that's the train. I'm thinking you heard that. Sorry about that.
But I love The Thing. The Thing is an amazing movie.
It's fantastic.
And it holds. I watched it a couple of months ago, and it still holds up today. It really does.
It does, and I love the practical effects. That's one of my biggest gripes about new movies is I miss the practical effects of the 1980s horror.
But why? I wonder why. Because CGI is definitely more expensive. You know, I've talked to filmmakers. It's more expensive to do CGI. Why not do practical effects? And I mean,
I know.
it
Laziness?
looks better. Yeah, that's what I think it is. And that's why I love indie horror, because indie horror definitely sticks with the practical effects and
Agree.
with the 80s theme. All right, so the final question I'm going to ask you, and this is a controversial one. You ready?
Okay.
What horror movie series do you wish they would stop making movies?
Halloween.
Why Halloween?
I just feel like they're beating a dead horse with it. The last one I saw in the theater, I forget which one it was. I think it was Halloween Kills. And when they all started shouting in the hospital, "Evil dies tonight," I'm just like, oh no. No. I mean, I still enjoyed the movie. It was still fun to go. Me and a bunch of my friends went to see it on Halloween. So I had a blast, but I'm just like, you guys are pumping a dry well here.
I actually saw that one in the theaters, and I loved it. And then I came home and watched it on Peacock, and I was like, "Oh my god, why did I like this movie?" And then of course Halloween Ends came out, and I 100% agree. Halloween original is my favorite horror movie of all time. I love the Halloween series. I have a personal to some of the first movies I saw in the theater, and I have a personal love for Halloween movies. But I just think they need a break. You know, I just think give it 10 years or even longer. Hopefully, get some fresh eyes on it. Someone from the next generation hopefully can do something with that franchise. But right now, I just think it needs a break. It's had 4 reboots, you know what I mean? Like in series, and it just needs a break. That and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, definitely needs a break. It definitely needs a break.
I agree. I kind of wish that there's so many great indie horror stories out there that would make fantastic movies, and they're not willing to take a risk on them. They want big money makers. They want built-in audiences. That's another Batman is another one that they can put to bed, and they keep doing reboots of it.
Mm-hmm. But the reason why is I explain to people, I'm like, the reason why is because the people who pay for horror movie tickets, like the box office, they're the casual horror fans, right? So the casual horror fans are the ones who actually go to the theaters and pay the big money they equal up to 70% of the gross, right? And then you have the hardcore horror fans who are the 30%. They're the minority. So the big budget companies, they are trying to please that 70%, and the 70% want to see Halloween 120 and Friday the 13th 55. So, which I get it, because they're going to constantly pay money, and those movies are constantly going to make money, even if they are not great.
It's true. Sad but true.
Yeah. And indie horror movies are where it's at right now, so that's why I try to shine a spotlight, because I mean it is where it's at. I mean indie horror writing is where it's at right now. I mean,
I agree.
You got some great stuff that's coming out in the indie horror writing world right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's great too, because there's so many writers who wouldn't have had a chance to get their stuff out there maybe even 5 years ago, and they're able to now with small publishers and presses.
I know, it's great. It's great that Amazon does make it super easy to self-publish. Mm-hmm. And you're right, you have all those small press publishers. There's a ton of them out there. It is a new era, I think, for indie horror. Indie in a lot of genres, actually. More people are finding them. They're discovering these indie authors, and I think there's going to be a horror renaissance.
I agree. Now, why do indie authors have a problem with Amazon?
I do think there's some issues with Amazon. I have heard some stories of people getting, like, the books that they order aren't always put together very well. I was actually impressed with the work Amazon did for this one. The interior is fantastic. The pages are nice. But I do think it can be hard with when you're an indie author if you don't have the capital to promote yourself, because when you have the capital, you can run Amazon ads to get your book out there. You can pay for, really nice cover artists, and you can pay for professional editing, which is very expensive. In audiobooks, it can cost somewhere up to $10,000 to produce an audiobook.
Wow.
That's why a lot of indie authors don't have audiobooks. It's mainly because of the voice actors. There's really high rates for the voice actors.
Yeah. Crazy. Because I've always wondered, because I've heard so many indie authors say, oh yeah, my book is on Barnes & Noble, blah, blah. It's on Amazon too, but I prefer for you to buy it from somewhere else. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like,
I wonder why. I mean, I do think Amazon's a great place to sell your books. I mean, they really are the number one book retailer right now.
Yeah.
I do think they make up the majority of sales.
And they definitely put, which listen, I probably understand this, but for me, my problem with Amazon is they put I was a huge bookstore fan, Walden Books and Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. They put a lot of those out of business. I mean, there are no bookstores. So
it's true. I remember Walden Books. I remember B. Dalton too.
Yes, I remember going to the mall, and there used to be a bookstore in every mall. Like, you go to a mall now, there's not a bookstore in sight.
There's a few. The indie bookstores, I think, are going to start seeing a renaissance too, because I know a lot of people who are all about supporting the small independent bookshops.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a great resource for indie authors too, because you can do readings, you can sell books through consignment with them, they'll help promote you. And so I think there's definitely a relationship there between indie authors and indie bookstores that indie authors can tap into. And I do think indie bookshops are starting to get bigger, because the younger generation, they are really into physical media. I've heard that from so many people in their 20s. They want physical books. They want physical CDs and DVDs. And I think it's because so many of them have lost some of their favorite shows when the streaming service decides to axe it, and they have no way to get it back.
I agree. Now, is there a indie bookstore in your neck of the woods that you like to give a shout out to?
Yes, there's two of them. There's one that's got a fantastic name. It's called The Writer's Block. They're in Las Vegas. And the other one I like to go to is called Coppercat Books in Henderson, Nevada. There are a couple of great little bookshops, independently owned. The people who work there are super cool.
All right, listen, everybody, take a look at them and definitely support our indie bookstores. As well as, listen, get over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle Unlimited, and grab your copy of Cemetery Spot. And I love that title, too. I love that title.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Jenna. All right, listen. Oh, by the way, where can we find you on social media?
Oh, I'm on all of them. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, aka X, all under Jenna Moquin. Just my one first name, last name on all of them.
Awesome.
Goodreads too.
Everybody, get over there and follow Jenna. Jenna's doing some good stuff. Grab your copy of Cemetery Spot. Jenna, it's been a pleasure having you on. Listen, you're more than welcome to come to Hard Realm anytime.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And then everybody. Oh, by the way, I don't do this. Thank you to all my subscribers and all my supporters. I appreciate you guys. The Horror Room will not be the Horror Room without you guys. So thank you, indie horror writers, filmmakers. I really appreciate you guys. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Jenna Moquin. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.